So we've identified that life is undeniable. It's going to look more like this than it's going to look like this, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so life is about understanding three places. One of them is the spiritual realm. One of them is the physical realm. And it's always based on where I started. Most people start at the cross. In some way, shape, or form. It's through a death in the family, it's through addiction, it's through a divorce, it's through something like that. And they find themselves in church or in jail or wherever, but they're on their knees crying out to God.
Yeah.
And it starts at the cross. Now, this cross could be higher or lower, but generally speaking, this cross is somewhere in a valley. Okay? So it's always so important to remember where we came in. Not where we think we came in. Not this one time when we were baptized and yada yada yada, but nothing really came of it. Not this one time when I walked forward in church and said the magic prayer and met with the pastor a few times, but again, nothing really happened. The start is always the place where there's fruit after it. Because you don't start and then get on your pink cloud and fly around, and magic pink cloud, and then you plop down to reality, and that reality is usually what? Hard crap that you're dealing with. Right? So it doesn't count. Because spiritual clouds, like pink clouds, people can try and pump themselves up there through music and through speaking in tongues and through healing and through this and through that. But the reality is that it's not reality. That there's still a tough world that we live in. Therefore, all of that hocus pocus doesn't provide or show provision through fruit. And this can be for anybody and any God, ultimately. At least the explanation of this place. But for Christians, it's the cross. And so it's usually in the valley. And we're usually in some sort of place of turmoil, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And as we begin to walk, now with Christ and other Christians, we begin a tough but steadily getting better climb to life. And here is where America big doors, big steeple, and I'm not a very good drawer. It looks like Pac-Man on crack or something. Or it looks like kind of one of those ghosts on Pac-Man. That's what it looks like. But that's where the American church sits. Okay? They haven't accepted the undeniable. And the undeniable is that life is not a steady climb to heaven. Life is filled with peaks and valleys. And so what happens is these individuals come to Christ, they come into the church, and they try and sit up here. But life continues to happen, so you begin to head down into a valley. Now, the natural reaction to what we would consider bad things to be in our life, we think automatically we're disconnected from God. Bad things are happening to me. I'm not praying hard enough. I'm not this hard enough. I'm not that hard enough. And we begin to damn ourselves mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. I'm a failure. I must be this. I must be that. Yada, yada, yada. And you go down here into this place of isolation. And this is the revolving door of the American church. And what they try to do is keep you up here. When you get up here, what's the first thing they say? Oh, where are you serving? You want to serve in the kids' ministry? You want to serve in the parking lot ministry? You want to serve in the coffee house? You want to serve over here? You want to serve over here? And serving's great when it's done with the right heart. But don't forget where you came from. You weren't serving anyone down here but yourself. And some of us may have been serving ourselves a little bit too much, if you know what I mean. We are not in any kind of spiritual, physical place to be in service up here. We haven't been taught how to be a servant. No one's really showing us, because everyone around you that you talk to just accepted Christ a couple months ago themselves. At least the people that you're in contact with, because you know the pastor, he sits way up here. A couple, depending on how big the church is, you got some key figures that you know by face, but you don't have interactions with them every day. So there's no discipleship. There was little to no discipleship on this journey up here. Join a Bible study, men's group, women's group, whatever. Boom, 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 boom. See you on Sunday, see you on Sunday, see you on Sunday, and then serve. And so now what we have is, while people are focusing on the church, we've got a bunch of unhealthy people trying to serve unhealthy people. Broken people serving broken people. Well, that's not the way the Bible told us to do it. The Bible told us to be perfect, to reflect perfection. And so there's got to be some sort of training ground to get you in a position to at least reflect health and truth to these newcomers coming up this hill. Because your place of service is always going to be to this climb. Very rarely is your service here. Because those are paid positions or band, that type of stuff, and then that's a whole other issue. The band's always a problem. But the reality is that all of the messages, all of the marketing, all of everything is about doing what? Bringing people here, accepting Jesus as their Savior so that they can come up here. And we all live happily ever after. Problem is that there's a back door in the church. And so, as many people are coming in, just as many people are headed back down this next valley. Where in their mind, God's not real. Where's God now? Where's the church now? Because no one's coming from here and trying to bring you back up. They'll wait for you. We'll see you on Sunday or whatever, and they'll talk the heck about you. I wonder what's going on with this guy. What's going on with this family? What's going on with this family? But ain't no one going out to the sea. no recon server, anything out here. And so this individual usually ends up back in this valley, and they don't continue to climb back up to another church. But we know that the constant in life, whether you're a believer or not, is always going to be this. It's ups and downs. It's good days and not so good days. Good times, bad times. And so they've taught us nothing on how to understand where we're going as a people. And so instead of trying to help the ones that are going out the back door, they're trying to replenish everything based on their marketing, PR, even based on, let's say, Southern Baptist Convention or whatever it is. These pastors have to fill out forms and reports and send it in to corporate office to tell how many new conversions they have, how many new baptisms they have this week, this quarter, this year. And they get money and funding based on those numbers. Just like any other business would. So if I'm bursting your bubble of the church, I'm not trying to, I'm just telling you, I've seen behind the curtain, this is how it works. So what do you think the leaders of this church are going to do about these numbers that are coming in? Since we know what a man is, what his heart is, separated from Christ is what? Yeah. Deceitful. Yes. And so just because you're a pastor doesn't mean that you're connected to God. Really, at the end of the day, you're a business owner. Or the president of the business, and these people have put you in this position. So what ends up happening is pastors are always overworked and underpaid. Always. And their phone is always going off the hook. It's for some big emergency. Sally Joe's aunt died, and this is going on over here, and this is going on. It's just constant. So guess what kind of quiet time these guys are doing? I know they did a study last year. I don't know if it's this year. And depending on how honest it was within the study, but it was a big study. And it was well into the 70s, 80s of pastors, senior pastors of churches that admitted to doing less than 5 minutes of studying quiet time a day. So it's not that there's anything bad against them. That's what happens to people that get busy and don't put God first. And so what they do is these numbers are coming in. Remember, they're being judged based on these numbers. Their heart's deceitful. And so they start counting people twice. They count the band every time. Even though there's 3 services, the band gets counted 3 times. Every time. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've been there. And so even what they're doing in regards to this building and what is supposed to be good isn't. And it's obvious why. Because it's leadership down. Because the focus is on the numbers, baptisms and buttholes, we used to call it. Buttholes and seats and baptisms, that's what the numbers are. And then these people are coming out the back door, they're unhappy clients, and now they don't, I've tried to go to church. I've tried, how many people do you talk to that say, oh yeah, I've tried. I tried this. I tried that. I went to this church, you'll never believe what happened. Pastor slept with the secretary, and I'm never going to church again, or I went here. I mean, you talk to all sorts of people, okay? So we haven't accomplished what we set out to accomplish, which was introduce people to Christ and then teach them to walk in His ways. So these people, they continue through the valleys, peaks and valleys, because that's what we know is going to happen in life. And they'll, like, maybe one year might be like lose weight And so they doing a weight loss thing, and their weight loss clinic is up here. Same type of thing happens. And then they try something else. You know, it could be people or friends or a community of such, and they get support through that, but the same type of thing happens. Because ultimately, everyone's focused on themselves. But the reality is that this is how God created the church to be. God didn't create the church to be like this. I'm going to show you how God created the church to be. You got to remember all things in life to know where you're at and to know where God is. You got to remember three things: where you're at in the spiritual realm, meaning I just accepted Christ. I'm just beginning my walk. I've been doing this for 8 months or 3 years or 10 years. That means that you are 8 months old, 1 year old, 10 years old. That's my position up here. That's what that means. There's always going to be people in front of you, always people behind you. But you have to have a clear understanding and expectation of you and where you're at in the spiritual realm. And understanding. You have to always be working towards more, just like you are when you start off in elementary school. The idea is to get to middle school, and then to high school, and then to college, same type of thing. But you're not going to go from week 1, 2, 3, 8 months, whatever, boom, 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 and have the knowledge of a 10-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old, 50, 60, 70-year-old. You can't hold yourself to those places that are unrealistic. You have to have a proper understanding of your current position. So that's why it's so important to understand this position. You have to understand your position in the physical realm. The physical realm is whatever hands you've been dealt. You're in a recovery house. You had a crappy life all the way up until now. A bunch of problems. Or you're an attorney at a high-paying firm that comes with lots of responsibility. You could have a wife and kids and a mortgage and this, that, and the other. You've got to have a clear understanding of your position in the physical realm, of what's yours, what's required of you, that type of stuff. Does that make sense? Always based on where you came in. So people accept Christ in this way multiple times in their life before they actually ever push through it. 3 frogs are sitting on a log. 2 make a decision to jump off. How many frogs are sitting on a log? Right. Because making decisions doesn't do anything. There's no obedience in the decision. So, but let's say that's the way it is, but let's talk about the way it should be, and the way that God designed it. That His Son is the beginning. Okay? It gave us the opportunity to be grafted in so that we could begin to climb the mountain with Him. This first position right here is an acceptance that I can't, He can, here we go. Make sense? You start walking up the hill with Him in the flesh through others, or Him in the Spirit in you. In each step, you're activating the principles that are written into your DNA. Each step, you're gaining more momentum. Each step, you're getting healthier, happier, whole. And we climb this hill, and this building here is supposed to be a place of training. It's not supposed to be a place to bring people to Christ. It never was, and they can try and use it for that, but it's not its purpose. And when you try and use something that is against the purpose in which it's made for, it's not going to work. You're not going to see the fruit that you want to see. You can lie to yourself and say, hey, we had 3,000 conversions and 3,000 baptisms last year, but there's no fruit. Where are those people now? This is a training house. People stay in this training house as long as they need to. It's where you get taught how to do what? Go out into the valley. Because we know that life is always going to be ups and downs. And so instead of going into the valley like, God has turned his back on me again, and my life sucks, and I need a better job, and I need this, and I need that, and woe is me. No, you're like, here we go, into the valley. I got my marching orders. I know what I'm going to do. This is tough because this is change and growth. So every time you go into the valley, it's about one thing: growth. That's when the pruning, the cutting, the shaving of all those things that you picked up climbing last time. Ego, pride, look at me, I'm so good. And God says, no, we're going to go down here and you're going to grow. And so you know that, and you step into it because you know it's a blessing. It's not a curse. He loves you so much, he wants more. He wants you to be more like his son, which is the best. And so he's willing to continue to invest over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. If you're willing to get into this position. So along this path, you meet other people that are doing the same thing. And on the days that they're struggling with their current position, you say, hey man, it's going to be all right. You're growing. This is good. We're getting ready to go back up the other side. And you are talking, and you are being Christ, even in those moments. And you are connecting with people. You are grabbing hold of people. People are paying attention to you. Because something's getting ready to happen. We're getting ready to climb. And going downhill is much easier than going uphill. And so what God did is he said, listen, I'm the great provider. I gave you everything you needed here and here. I haven't let you down yet. Don't lose faith now. And you take your experience, strength, and hope of this climb, and you grab a couple people till you get here. Because the first time it was just you. Maybe this time it's going to be 3 or 4 of you. Maybe a wife. Maybe a good friend. Maybe whatever. And so you bring them up for training. You get all trained up. A lot of people love to try and camp out up here. They're in every service. They're early. Drinking all the coffee. Eating all the bagels and the cupcakes, and you can hardly even get to them because they're there so fast. Because they're camped out. As we get up here, one of the final things that we do before we leave this place in life is we stop and we look around and we see what God's done. Wow, I mean, before it was just me. And then I've changed so much. My whole life has changed. All these incredible things have happened. And then it's kind of went through a growth time, and then we climbed back up the hill, but this time I had 3 or 4 guys with me, and now we're standing up on this hill. Look at this. Look at that valley that we made it through. And God says, good job, faithful servants. Here's your provision. Now, get back out there in the valley so that you can grow, so that you can change, so that you can have faith in all of this stuff I've already done for you. So that you can come back down here and grab some more people. Because you got a pretty serious climb ahead of you. You don't know it, but your wife's going to get breast cancer. And there's people watching you. And they've been counting you out ever since back here. Because you were a crackhead. And you lost it all. People are watching. And you got to climb. Because we know the ups and downs in this world are going to come. And it's not because we're good or bad. It's because it's called life. And so when we have the proper understanding and perspective of what life is, it positions us to look at things differently. Hey man, everything's going great here, yada yada, growth, yada blah, 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 blah. Doctor's appointment, wife's got breast cancer. Here we go. Straight down the hill. Some days it's just showing up and getting through it. Some days it's like, F you. Why are you doing this to me now when I've done so much for you? But it's always moving forward. And somewhere in here, because of this, you realize and see what God's doing. And that's not His fault. He didn't curse you with that. It's life. So you have a choice. Are you going to choose blessing or are you going to choose curse? And somewhere along in there, you hopefully choose blessing. And as you're going down, sometimes it's just survival. You begin to climb up. And sometimes it's everything in your power just to take another step up that climb. Finances. Romances. Deserves. Want tos. That's what this climb looks like. Because you're carrying all this stuff. And now you're carrying all these other people. Kids. Family. In-laws. Ministry. People are watching. And their success depends on your next step. Not in a provision matter, because your next step is simply about you and God being obedient. Next step, you and God being obedient. But what behind you is going on, people are building strength to climb their next hill, mountain. That's Christ. The reflection, the watching. And then in this whole time, because of how much you're changing, you're being Christ to everyone around you, even though all this craziness is going on. Where normally you just want to go in the garage, camp out, go to the golf course, go to the gym, fill it with whatever you want, look in the mirror, take a shower, me time. And you can't, because you've learned so much along this way. And you're not going to give up, because He's provided so much for you already. You have faith and trust that He's going to get you through this one. And you know that when you get to the top of this one, it's going to be better than the last time you were up there. And you're going to have that option, that moment, not an option, but a moment, if you're obedient, to stand and do a 360. And say, wow, that guy, no way, I can't believe it. Look at this. Holy cow, look what's going on in my extended family. All just because of me. Wow. Look at God, what he's doing over here in this city, in this ministry. Wow. It's just all this incredible provision so that you can go down again. This can be a building, but it doesn't have to. The way I see these today, I see them as holidays. Commanded ones. That's the time that we come up. Look around, receive our teaching, get our provision, so that we can go back down. Some people think they have to go to the far ends of the earth to be missionaries, to bring people here. And then they're like, all right, we're done, we're out of here, back to South Tampa, had a nice little, built a couple houses, couple whatever, we're done. But there's no one discipling, walking the road, walking it out themselves in their own life to get up. And so it's something that's very short-lived and it just disappears. They just turn back to their old ways. Poor execution. Number one reason why people fail. Poor execution. See, God, He told us exactly how to do everything. Everything that was important to you and Him. Some things He gave you some space, and other things He is very zoned in on. It's His teaching and instruction. And what we do is natural, is we get so far ahead of ourselves that we don't even see the valleys that are coming. And so they hit us a lot harder. But the truth is that it was always there. Everyone else could see it. It was undeniable. But because you weren't positioned properly based on the spiritual realm, physical realm, based on where you came in, you missed it. And so you slide down into the valley, stumbling, and you wipe off all the blood and whatever, and then you decide if you're going to climb up or not. And you go through that whole thing. A lot of people don't make it out of the valley. A lot of suicide happens in the valley. A lot of quitting happens in the valley. And so poor execution is the number one reason why people fail in life. Fail at what? Everything. Tony gave us this little 3-minute video and he says, listen, this is how I do it. Boom, 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 boom. You know what? When someone tells you to do something or makes a suggestion to you in your life based on their position and your position and where you're at, and if you're in the right position, it means that God's placed the right people around you to get you where you need to be, which is either into the valley or out of the valley or whatever. You better listen to what they say. And you better execute it exactly the way that they do it. Now, you may think a lot of yourselves. You may think, man, I'm definitely smarter than Jason. He's a high school dropout. So, yeah, he did it that way, but, I don't think I need to do it exactly like that. And so this person starts to make justifications for their laxation in following the instruction. Therefore, they don't get the results that they want. And what's the first thing they say? This don't work. That's why I have 100% money back guarantee.
If you do absolutely everything I tell you to do, and it does not work for you, I'll believe you more than. It's never happened yet. Because it's never about something didn't work. It was about they didn't work it. Poor execution. And so we have to learn how to master these simple things so that when we get to the big places in life, we don't get all tripped up. And we know these big places are coming. Death and taxes are undeniable. I know plenty of tax seasons that have driven people back into addiction. I know plenty of deaths that have driven people back into addiction. We know they're coming. It's not about whether they're good or bad. It's how we are ready for it when it happens. That's why Joe W. used to always say finances and romances. Because you go from a place of not having a lot, and you get a little job. Ooh, I'm buying an energy drink every day, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day. I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to get some new threads, I'm going to put myself in all these positions, financially, physically, spiritually, that I don't need to be in. And wham! I start back over again. Because I wasn't prepared. Finances and romances. Romances is romancing yourself. Don't be nasty like that. I'm not talking about that. Meaning, wow, look at me. I'm doing so good. Look at me. I'm the best guy around. Look at me. We puff ourselves up. We start to believe ourselves. And before you know it, it's, I'm doing really good, so I probably don't need to go to that meeting. Or I'm doing really good, I probably don't need to give my testimony anymore. I'm really good, I don't really feel like being a sponsor anymore. I'm really good and comfortable, I don't really feel like interjecting into these people's lives. I don't need that stress. Even though you see that God is showing you that you're supposed to interject in life because there's major issues going on. It's your position to interject. You turn your back to it. You get puffed up pretty quick. We romance ourselves. And then, of course, we have the romancing of others. And we do that in work. Man, I'm really doing good, man. Look, Mom, look, Dad, I'm so good. I've been sober for a couple months now, I deserve this, I deserve that, or wife, or whatever, yada, yada. And you puff yourself up to other people. You start to romance other people to try and increase your position before God's increase. Which means that you're not connected to God. You're disconnected. And that means you're spiritually dead. Once you're spiritually dead, it's only a matter of time till you're physically dead. You're just a walking zombie in between. A lot of